Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 12th November. The news items which we have picked up from the Hindu are these 10. We'll discuss them in detail. The first one, India signs landmark civil nuclear deal with Japan. So we have already discussed this yesterday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a visit to Japan for the annual bilateral summit which takes place between the two countries. In this summit now the news is that India-Japan nuclear deal has been signed. So this deal had been under negotiations for the last 6 years, since 2010, and now finally the deal has been signed. The most contentious provision in this deal was regarding the nullification clause or the termination clause, means that the deal would be nullified. So this was a clause which Japan wanted, means it wanted that if India conducts a nuclear test, then the India-Japan nuclear deal would be nullified with immediate effect. So immediate nullification. So that's what Japan wanted. India said that the nullification should be taken care of after some discussion, negotiation, consideration. So there should be aspect for some negotiation too involved. So Japan was insistent on immediate nullification, and now what the news comes that India-Japan nuclear deal has been signed. It says that Japanese sides have said that 1 year's notice can be given by Japan if India conducts a nuclear test to nullify the deal. So that is what actually India also wanted. So this 1 year's time frame will be there. 1 year's notice will be provided before nullifying. So because we wanted this, because India's proposed nuclear reactors by various companies, USA, Western countries like France, all these nuclear reactors have critical components which come from Japanese firms. Even important companies like GE, these are nuclear companies, GE, Westinghouse from USA, Areva from France. So these are involved in nuclear business. These companies also have their stake in, have a part of their stake with Japanese companies like Toshiba, Hitachi, Mitsubishi. So then Japanese nuclear deal was very significant for even the nuclear reactors from these Western countries to be initiated in India. So even these proposed nuclear reactors have been stalled because of lack of India-Japan nuclear deal. So this is a major breakthrough, and also we need some time frame before nullifying, because if immediately nullification will take place, and all these reactors which have been would have been set up in India would be affected. So that is the reason why. So this is a significant breakthrough. Also this nullification clause if India conducts a nuclear test. So nuclear tests have been conducted by India earlier. We have conducted our first nuclear test in 1974, that is called Pokhran 1 during Indira Gandhi's time. Then the second nuclear test was conducted in 1998, Pokhran 2, that was during Prime Minister Vajpayee's time. So these two nuclear tests have been conducted and we have developed nuclear capability. But then after that we had put a unilateral moratorium on nuclear testing. That means unilaterally means on our own, khud se. Moratorium means keeping it, stalling it, that we will not conduct nuclear tests. So unilateral moratorium on nuclear tests is what India's nuclear stand is. But then this was also extended in 2008. This was extended in front of NSG2. So in 2005 we had India-US nuclear deal signed. So after that, to get some NSG waiver, we also had this moratorium extended and applicable to NSG members too. So we agreed in front of them too that we will not conduct any more nuclear tests. But Japan still fears that if India conducts a nuclear test despite this moratorium, then what should be the course ahead? Because Japan has signed around 13 civil nuclear agreements, but it has signed all these agreements with members who have signed the NPT, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. So this is the first nuclear deal which Japan has signed with a non-NPT member, that is India. So that is also the significance here. So you can see here. So this is the time frame of India's nuclear testing also, 1974-98, then moratorium issue continues, and even in front of NSG we made this announcement. Then the 2010, this is regarding the negotiation starting with for India-Japan nuclear deal, and then finally 2016, 11 November, we have signed the nuclear deal. Then the next news item is Hydel projects. World Bank asks India, Pakistan to agree to mediation. So World Bank has brokered a treaty, Indus Water Treaty of 1960 between India and Pakistan. So this treaty provides for the allocation of river waters of Indus and its 5 tributaries. Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas and Satluj. So under this treaty, Indus, Jhelum and Chenab are majorly to be used by Pakistan, and Ravi, Beas and Satluj are for India. So that is the distribution, but then these rivers all flow from India to Pakistan, and then the Indus River flows into the Arabian Sea. So then India has the river flowing through it. So water can be used by India as well. So what is allowed is run of the river. Projects are allowed. Means if the project or the dam is not stopping the river flow significantly. So those aspects are allowed. The such projects. So many hydroelectric projects have been initiated by India on these rivers Indus, Jhelum and Chenab also. So these are the projects against which Pakistan raises its voice and says that India is going against India's water treaty arrangements. So then Pakistan takes this matter to World Bank. So World Bank has initiated mediation and it has appointed 3 neutral umpires, means people who will look into this matter. So this is what India is protesting against. So there are objections raised by India about this method of their appointment also, because they have been appointed by lot, means by a draw of lots, means by randomly picking up names. So this is protested against by India as well, because India feels that World Bank would be biased towards Pakistan. So those are the concerns there. The 2 projects against which Pakistan is presently protesting are Kishan Ganga project and Ratle project. So you can look at the details here too. This is the river. Kishan Ganga is actually the river which in Pakistan is known as Neelam river. So that is a tributary of Jhelum. So Indus tributary is Jhelum and Jhelam's tributary is this Kishan Ganga or Neelam river. So this is the project which we have initiated here. So it is a 330 megawatt run of the river hydroelectric project. So this project has been protested against, and it has gone to even the Hague Permanent Court of Arbitration. So this is the Permanent Court of Arbitration in Netherlands, The Hague. So this has been objected to at this level also by Pakistan. So Pakistan is protesting this river will block the flow of the Neelam or Kishan Ganga river. So that is the issue. So this Hague Permanent Court actually ruled that India can divert a minimum amount of water for power generation, that is allowed. So it is not a significant diversion which is taking place. So actually it ruled in India's favor. So this is the project which is again protesting against in front of World Bank also. And the next project, Ratle Dam project, is here. This is again about Jhelum only, this Kishan Ganga project on a tributary of Jhelum. So this is the Jhelum river you can see, and this is the dam here which is planned. So this is near the line of control, LOC. And the Ratle hydroelectric project is actually an 850 megawatt project, and this has been planned in this Ratle village which is in Doda district here. So you can see this is on Chenab river. So this in Jhelum and Chenab both are actually under Indus Water Treaty with Pakistan, but then if it is a run of the river project, it is allowed. So even this the Ratle project is also a run of the river project, so it should not be protested against. The foundation stone for this has also been laid in 2013 only. So construction has just started, but then Pakistan protests. Then the next project which you should know about, which has been completed and dedicated to the nation, this is Baglihar hydroelectric project. So this is a 900 megawatt project which has been completed. This is again on Chenab river in Doda district only. So this was started, it was conceived in 1992, approved in 1996, and construction began in 1999. So this also Pakistan protested against, that as per Indus Water Treaty, India cannot have this project on Chenab river, which is it with it. But this is again a run of the river project. So again Pakistan had protested before World Bank, and during this time World Bank had studied the project and had given some variations not in the terms of technical aspects of the dam and the heights and spill gateways which were there in this project, but then overall it favored India, and it said it is only a run of the river project, so India should not be objected against. So India has completed, first phase of this dam was completed in 2004, and the second phase of this project has also been completed in 2008. So this 900 megawatt project is already functional. So this is an earlier example of the dispute between the two nations too, and how it went ahead. Then the next news item is airfares to soar as center slaps levy. This is regarding the regional connectivity scheme and the regional connectivity fund which the central government has set up right now, 80% of the funding for this will come from levying a cess on all domestic routes served by the airlines, except the routes to northeastern states and other regional sectors which have been determined by the government. So, and the 20% of the funding will come from the states. And this regional connectivity fund will be used for enhancing regional connectivity to these unserved or underserved areas. So that is the plan of the government, impose a cess here and use this as concession for these unserved regions. So this has been protested against by the airlines too. They are planning to approach the courts also against this cess which government is levying. Because this cess anyway, this will be paid by the passengers on the tickets. But then this decreases the leeway with the airlines to increase their fares or to adjust their fares. So they are protesting against this. Even the government has planned to acquire, Air India has planned to lease the 19-seater Dornier planes which are owned by HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, to serve these unserved or underserved areas too, because here the demand is not high, so there are no air flights which run in these regions. So that is why smaller seater planes can serve these regions. Then the next news item is, don't aggravate Maoist situation, find peaceful solution, Supreme Court. So this is actually regarding an FIR which has been filed against a Delhi University professor, Nalini Sundar. So there are still universities and people who support the cause of these leftists in these remote areas. So this is basically in Chhattisgarh, Sukma district, where insurgency, left-wing insurgency is quite high. So these academics also visit these regions to understand the plight of the people and also to meet these extremists and understand their perspectives, points of view, and what are they fighting for. So these people are also targeted by the government. So presently an FIR has been filed for murder of a person in this Sukma district, a village in the Sukma district, against Nalini Sundar. So in her defense, she says that she visited this region in May and the murder was committed in November. So how can the government accuse her? So this is accusation by Chhattisgarh government, which is BJP ruled. So they have filed a case against an FIR against her, and the Supreme Court has been approached in this matter, and Supreme Court has given its view that don't aggravate the Maoist situation, don't target people like that, find a pragmatic or a peaceful way out, a peaceful solution to this problem. And it has taken an assurance from the Chhattisgarh government that they will not arrest Nalini Sundar till the next day of the hearing in the Supreme Court. So the way academicians are targeted for their points of view, this is an example of that. Then the next news item is, cut derogatory references to Nadars in textbooks. So this is a member of parliament from Tamil Nadu who is asking the HRD minister, Human Resource Development Minister, through a letter that there are derogatory references to the Nadar community. So this is a community in Tamil Nadu, and one major person from this community, Kamaraj, who was a renowned politician, was another. So she also talks about the contribution which he made as an Indian leader. So they cannot use derogatory terms. She's basically referring to the term Shanars, which is used in the textbook to refer to another community. So she says this Shanars is an abusive word and it is a socially stigmatized concept. So this aspect should be removed from the textbooks. That is her demand. Then the next news item is, Parrikar's remarks can be mistaken, experts. So this is regarding Defense Minister Manohar Parrikar's remarks which he made yesterday regarding the no first use policy. So India has a no first use policy. It's called NFU policy. Means we will not use the nuclear weapons first. Means we will not be the first ones to use them. But in response, of course, we can use them. So that is the no first use policy which India has observed and maintained. So that increases India's credibility in the nuclear field also. So that is why the other countries also have assurances or have faith in India. So this is the policy of India, that it will not use nuclear weapons as an aggressor. So this perspective now been changing. The defense minister's perspective, he says also that this is his own remark, own perspective, own viewpoint, that we should not declare this, because if we are declaring this, then what's the use of having nuclear weapons? So if there should be unpredictability here. So if there is unpredictability, if the other opponent feels that Indian government has nuclear weapons and India can use nuclear weapons against it anytime, then there is this fear. So this fear can be useful. So that is his perspective. But experts say there's other side to this too. That if these we don't have a no first use policy, then what will be India's credibility in the nuclear domain, and how NSG and other countries, how will they deal in nuclear matters with India? So they will have mistrust with India. So do we want that, or do we want that countries should fear us? So that is the balance which needs to be maintained. So that is being put forth clearly here. The next news item is PMO pushed to print new notes in India, says official. So this is regarding the new 2000 rupee currency notes which have been printed now. The raw material paper for this has been produced indigenously in India. So the Bank Note Paper Mill India Private Limited. This was established in Mysuru and it started functioning in 2015, and it has produced all the raw notes for the 2000 rupee currency. So this initiative has been taken place right now to bring in self-reliance and to reduce dependence on the European firms. So all banknotes earlier were imported by India from these European firms from Germany, UK and Netherlands. And these were also the firms which were providing banknotes to Pakistan. So that resulted in counterfeiting being more prominent and Pakistan being able to counterfeit Indian currency notes. So this aspect has to be taken care of. Also, the PMO insisted that all currencies should be printed in, notes should be printed in India, because again it says that these are NATO countries. So even if they put a moratorium on us, trade moratorium on us later, then we would suffer because our banknotes come from here. So another reason here given on the face of it. But anyway, the actual reason is known, and so we have insisted, and this is the initiative taken. So 90% right now has taken place that it has been printed in India, but later we plan to achieve 100% self-reliance, that all banknotes will be produced in India indigenously. So that is the initiative. So presently the design has changed. The security features still remain the same. So we'll have to change the enhance the security features also to counter counterfeiting of notes. Then the next news item is government returns 43 names cleared for High Court judges. So this is regarding the judges appointment. A little history here is that in India, appointment of judges take place through a collegium system. So this is a system which is not mentioned in the constitution, but the judiciary has established for itself. This is the collegium system. So you can read the details here too. So under this, the judiciary takes on itself that we will decide, CJI and two other judges will decide who will be the judges appointed as the Supreme Court judges. Then in High Court also, the High Court judges together form a group who will decide who will, that group is called collegium. So they will form a collegium and decide who will be the judges appointed or even transferred, and these names are proposed to the government. Government can return them once. If again returned, then second time they have to agree to what the judges say. So this was the collegium system in place. The judiciary says that this gives us complete independence. So later the government came up with a bill. This is called National Judicial Accountability Commission Bill, NJAC. So this commission was planned to be set up. Even constitutional amendment bill was passed. So that was the 99th constitutional amendment bill, and also an NJAC act. Both these were passed by the government, and it came into effect in December 2014 when President gave its assent. So it was a complete constitutional amendment bill with even states, 50% of the states giving the assent, and finally it received its assent in 2014. But when it came before the judiciary called it unconstitutional and void, because what this NJAC provided for was a National Judicial Appointment Commission. In this commission, there was equal weightage given to both the members from government and the judiciary. So the judiciary felt that our prominence is reduced here. So then how will it be possible that the name which we suggest will be adhered to? So it says it's compromising the independence of the judiciary, and on that ground it declared both the Constitutional Amendment Act and the NJAC Act as unconstitutional and void. So after this, how will the appointments take place now? So that was the question. So the judiciary stand was, even in this judgment only, it said that we agree that the collegium system also is not up to the mark. So there is a new system which should evolve. And what should this new system be? The government can decide. So for that a memorandum of procedure, MOP, has been planned that should be decided. So this MOP has been planned by the government and put forth before the judiciary, which the judiciary has to approve. So once approved, this MOP, Memorandum of Procedure, will be in place. So this will be how appointments, transfers, etc., complaints regarding judges will be taken care of. So these are the 4 aspects: eligibility criteria for appointments, methods to make appointments, a secretariat to be established in Supreme Courts and High Courts for this matter, and the redressal mechanism for complaints. So on these 4 aspects, an MOP, Memorandum of Procedure, has to be finalized. So by both the executive as well as the judiciary, both agreeing to it. So this process is still pending. So in pendency of this process, how should appointments take place? So judiciary says it should take place through collegium system only. And now the central government judiciary accuses is delaying the appointments. So that is affecting the present functioning of Supreme Courts and High Courts. So this is a whole tussle between the executive and the judiciary. Presently, after many a times, you must have read in news also, we have discussed earlier how the Supreme Court CJI, Chief Justice of India, Mr. Thakur, Justice Thakur, made emotional speeches also and reprimanded the government for not making appointments. So it says the collegium has sent the names to the government, but government is not responding to it. So presently the news is that the central government has returned 43 names out of the 77 names which the collegium put forth before the central government, and 34 names only have been approved. So the Attorney General of India, representing the government, says that we have done our work. So that's what the CJI said, that either you accept the names given by collegium or reject, but do something, don't keep it pending. So now they say we have done our work, and it again reminds that the Memorandum of Procedure which has been put forth before the judiciary in August, the judiciary has not responded on it. So what is going on that matter too? The CJI said that on November 15, a meeting will take place of the collegium and will discuss the MOP. So these are the developments here. Then the next news item is November's supermoon will be biggest and brightest in 60 years. So what is a supermoon? Supermoon is a perigee full moon. So this is apogee and perigee because the moon's orbit around the earth is elliptical. So because of this elliptical orbit, there will be a time when the moon is closest to the earth and a time when moon is farthest from the earth. So when it is closest, it is called perigee, pass. You can remember P, pass, perigee, and apogee, far away. So this is the other 2 points. A supermoon is a time when the moon is a full moon plus it is at perigee. So that point of time, moon becomes area which is visible is 30% larger in area and also 30% brighter than the smallest full moons which we see. So this aspect is there, but there is another aspect of moon illusion, because of which we cannot understand the exact size of the moon. So moon, when it is near the horizon, it appears bigger. When it is higher up in the sky, it appears smaller. So that is called moon's illusion. So then moon's illusion effect is much more than the supermoon effect too. So supermoon effect may not be very much visible, but moon's horizon plus supermoon will make the moon look very large. So that is the news. Again, not very significant for us. You should at least understand what is supermoon and apogee, perigee. And the last news item, new eye test method to prevent vision loss. So this is regarding the cataract surgery, and the most common complication which develops due to this cataract surgery, which is high eye pressure. So this is because in the cataract surgery, the eye is refilled with a saline solution and then the eye is tapped with a Q-tip. So this tapping is done to check the eye pressure, whether the eye is too hard, too firm, too soft, or just right. So this Q-tip tapping is called by the present researchers as Goldilocks style guesstimate. So this generally turns wrong to a wrong guess can later result into complications developing. So as a response to this, these researchers have developed a tonometer. So this is a device which can accurately gauge the eye pressure. So these can be used so that these complications due to high eye pressure are minimized. So that is the research. So these are the news items for today. Thank you so much. You can download the PDF from the website. The link is provided in the description. Thank you.